You have, let's say, left-wing gay activists who want to show solidarity with the gay people that exist in Palestinian territories and the trans people and the gay people that are there who live under a lot of oppression. That is true. I think where they are severely misguided is that their solidarity with the gay people who are suffering there, and gays have been killed in Gaza. They face harassment and oppression from the Palestinian Authority government in the West Bank as well. Like, that oppression exists, but blanketly sort of chanting for liberation of Palestine, it shows their ignorance at best.
So you're based in London
No.
now. What's been happening here?
Well, so most people are familiar with my work because of my coverage on Antifa, right? Well, once upon a time, I used to write and do coverage on radical Islam and issues related to migration and immigration. I set aside for several years to cover what was happening in Portland, Oregon, where I'm from, and the rise of the violent far left in America. That skill set has come out now because of in my coverage of the ostensibly pro-Palestine demonstrations that have been happening in London and also other cities all over the world. You know, my commentary doesn't really matter too much. I think people can go to my social media and see the videos themselves, but what you'll see in many European, I would say most, if not all, European capitals, in cities in the West, in North America, and also in Australia, protesters who have introduced a religious element to their demonstrations. So it's not just political. It's not, I think, to a lot of white leftists who have been showing up, they think this is a political protest about our disagreement with the regime in Israel. I mean, that's part of it, but there are those who are there who feel a religious conviction. And you'll see it in what they're chanting, what they're saying, and what their demands are as well. And I hope that through my videos that people can see that. And for example, explicit cries for Muslim armies around the world to mobilize and engage in jihad against the Zionist forces, I'm using their words. And this is through the streets of London, central London. People carrying the black flag with the Shahada on it, which is commonly associated with jihadist and Islamist groups. People putting the one finger salute to their God in the air and shouting about the Islamic State or an Islamic State. And if you're walking by and you're some English socialist protester, you have no clue about what they're chanting in Arabic. Fortunately, I have a background in writing and researching radical Islam, so you know, the stuff they're saying in Arabic, they're not chanting against Israelis, they're chanting against the Yahud, the Jews. So it's important for people to see that in the videos, and that's why I'm out there.
Where do you think this is leading? In the West, especially. Forget about Israel for a second. In the West, in London. Where's that leading? Because I feel safer. This is the weird thing. I feel safer in Israel under rocket fire, knowing that there's an army there, at least now. They dropped the ball on October 7. But today, the last couple of weeks when I was there, you had an army. At least there's a bomb shelter you can head towards. There's the Iron Dome. So there are things in place, and you have a fighting chance. Whereas walking down the streets in some parts of London, I have no fighting chance.
I think governments in Western Europe have recognized now, finally, that there's an issue. And you see, like in Germany and in France, they've actually banned a lot of the Palestine demonstrations. They've taken place regardless, but at least they've tried to ban them because of the expectation that there will be incitement to anti-Semitic violence. In London in particular, let's say, speaking about what I know, immediately the Met Police mobilized to protect Jewish institutions on the 7th of October. And this is it's a sad reality that with multiculturalism, this paradise and this utopian diverse society that we've been sold for generations from the chartering classes and the elites and intellectuals, we don't see people being safer because of it. Now there's an expectation that if there's conflict in the Middle East, you have to protect Jewish institutions here because people might carry out acts of violence. I mean, protecting the institutions is important, but this is really it's a Band-Aid solution, a solution for the day, perhaps, but what about next month or the year after that or a decade after that? It's like, I think people really need to be talking a bit more about immigration. And perhaps they're not talking about it because it's too late now, and there's really the problems we see are here. And even piecemeal policy, legislative changes probably will not be able to affect much change.
What's your view on and even in here in London, we saw a video of somebody waving a pride flag and then actually the crowd turning on him.
I mean, there's two takes on it. One, let me start with the most charitable take. You have, let's say, left-wing gay activists who want to show solidarity with the gay people that exist in Palestinian territories and the trans people and the gay people that are there who live under a lot of oppression. That is true. I think where they are severely misguided is that their solidarity with the gay people who are suffering there, and gays have been killed in Gaza. They face harassment and oppression from the Palestinian Authority government in the West Bank as well. Like, that oppression exists, but blanketly sort of chanting for liberation of Palestine, it shows their ignorance at best, because you have these different governing factions in the Palestinian territories. All of them are extremely hostile to gay people, particularly gay men in particular, and it's the worst in Gaza because that's governed under Hamas and governed under their interpretation of Islamic law.
Now, you're known and specialise in Antifa extremism and obviously the radical Islam. But what we've seen in this conflict that's a bit different this time around is that there is a growing group within the right that seem to be aligning themselves to both the jihadis and almost the left. They might not openly say that they're aligning themselves to those groups, but essentially they are joining the Free Palestine movement. Have you been following that, and what's your take on all of that?
That is an interesting phenomenon happening mostly in the American right or the hard right in the US. It comes from the anti-war right and they have legitimate grievances, I feel, that whenever there's some type of conflict in the world that America is drawn in, let's say Ukraine, or in this case involving Israel, the establishment Republican Party, the establishment Democrat Party, they support more efforts at war, sending more billions and billions of dollars. Whereas on the homeland, we have extreme issues with income inequalities, an extremely porous border in the southern border with Mexico, people overdosing in historic numbers on drugs on American streets. And they have this frustration of we are being taxed to death, and our money is being sent every few months in the billions, tens of billions, to these conflicts that are far away and don't necessarily affect us. I understand that grievance and actually think that view is a legitimate view to be expressed and to be debated.
If you enjoyed this little interview that I've just recorded in London, yes, I'm in London. I've gone from the Israel-Gaza border to the ARC Forum here in London. If you enjoyed it, make sure to like, comment, but most importantly, share it far and wide. And if you want to see more of my reporting about the conflict from the front line over the last 2 weeks, and there's still some more content still being produced as we speak, go to thetruthaboutthewar.com. Thetruthaboutthewar.com. Check out all the stories and share them. And I'm doing plenty of other interviews here at the ARC Forum. They'll be produced and published over the next few weeks. But in the meantime, while the war is still raging, the ground operation is underway in Gaza, we'll make sure to put out these stories first. Thetruthaboutthewar.com.